Hi folks, Tater here. What a long, strange trip this year has been so far, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about adventure. That's right. As I told you in the last episode, I took my two oldest grandkids on a great American adventure. I picked them up in Zebulon, Georgia, and our first stop was just north of Cincinnati, Ohio, Kings Island Amusement Park. Hey, let's get things started. We left Zebulon, Georgia early on a Sunday morning. Drove 530 miles north up I-75 to Mason, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati. Kings Island is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. It has over 100 attractions and 14 roller coasters. My favorite is the Beast. We rode it at night. On this particular day, the park stayed open till midnight. The kids had a great time. There was a fireworks/drone show that evening celebrating both the 50th anniversary and the 4th of July, emceed by Barry Williams. That's right, Greg Brady. The next day was the 4th of July. We drove up to my uncle's house on Buckeye Lake in central Ohio. The weather was perfect. The kids got to water tube and enjoy a day at the lake with the family. It was topped off with a fireworks show. God bless America. Next, it was on to Lake Erie shores and islands. We took the Kelly's Island ferry out to Kelly's Island for 3 nights of camping. The kids did some swimming. The weather wasn't always perfect, but we made the best of it. Some of the views were just spectacular. We rode our bikes into town for a pizza. And we found some local entertainment. We took a day trip to South Bass Island to the village of Put-in Bay on the Jet Express ferry. This little village gives off a Key West vibe. We rented a golf cart to help get around, toured a winery and a cave. Then it was back to Kelly's Island for the night. It was time to pack up and get back on the road again. This time we headed up north to Mackinac City, Michigan. Once again, we took a ferry out to Mackinac Island. You could see the mighty Mac, the Mackinac Bridge, in the distance. It was a beautiful evening. Mackinac Island doesn't allow cars. It's like an old-time throwback island. Only horses and bicycles are allowed. We got there just in time for dinner. We had a nice cheeseburger. Mackinac Island is known for its fudge, but these two kids, they rather have ice cream. The view of the sun going down was just beautiful. The next morning we drove across Mackinac Bridge to the upper peninsula of Michigan. We traveled along the coast of Lake Michigan for a while until we got hungry and we stopped for a UP favorite, a pasty. Pasties are meat pies. The recipe comes from Cornish miners who arrived in the UP in the early 1800s to work the copper mines. They are traditionally filled with beef, potatoes, onions, and served warm. Logan loved them. We stayed in a cabin outside of the city of Newberry, the moose capital of Michigan. Our first stop was Oswald's Bear Ranch in Newberry, the moose capital of Michigan. Oswald's Bear Ranch is a bear rescue. They have over 40 bears on their premises. In old Tater's opinion, the ranch is a bit tacky. But that being said, I think it also adds to the uniqueness of the place. I'd definitely go see it again. And the kids got to pet a real baby bear. You can buy a sack of cut up apples for $5 and feed it to the bears. They love them. After that, we drove 30 minutes to Deer Park Beach to see the one they call Gitchagumi, Lake Superior. The temperature at the Bear Ranch was 82 degrees. When we got to Lake Superior, it was 58 degrees. That's a big difference. It was still a beautiful sunny day. The water was crystal clear. Addie couldn't help herself. She just had to snorkel around a bit. The water temperature was 40 degrees. That girl may have some mermaid in her. Then it was back to the cabin for the night. The kids played while I enjoyed a nice fire. Like Kid Rock said, it was summertime in northern Michigan. The next day we visited Taquanamon Falls. Have you ever seen a waterfalls made of root beer? It's not actually root beer, although it looks like it. The amber color comes from the roots of the cedar trees that line the forest nearby. It's a popular destination for tourists. There's something about waterfalls that's just mesmerizing. Next, we drove 25 miles to Whitefish Point. There's a lighthouse and a Great Lakes shipwreck museum that I've been wanting to see. Then we drove an hour and a half to the city of Sault Ste. Marie. We had lunch at Antlers Restaurant. It's a unique place, to say the least. Me and Logan had the whitefish sandwich. Addie had a cheeseburger. I wonder why they call it Antlers. Then we checked out the Soo Locks. The Soo Locks separate the United States from Canada. It also separates Lake Superior from Lake Huron. It's operated by the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and it's well guarded. The locks bypass a 20-foot difference between the two Great Lakes, allowing the huge freighters to pass through daily. It's very interesting to watch. Here we see a tour ferry passing through. An average of 10,000 ships a year pass through the locks. The locks are closed for winter due to ice. And speaking of ice, these kids couldn't pass up getting ice cream in town. The next morning we headed back to Georgia with a quick stop in Kentucky to check on my garden. We seen some sights. Over 2,500 miles, 6 states, 3 different ferries to 3 different islands, 4 out of 5 Great Lakes, in view of a foreign country, Canada. 1 rainstorm, 1 cop, surviving no cell service for days, driving into a swarm of mayflies, and our holiday road adventure is finally over. Thank you, Lord. Our big adventure took 10 days. Old Tater is normally a lone wolf, so at times it was very stressful dealing with a 12 and 13-year-old. I'm sure it wasn't always easy on them as well. I learned a lot of little lessons along the way. Less is best. We definitely overpacked. The more stuff you have, the more problems you have. Remember, keep it simple. I left Skywatch Studios on June 14th, and since that time, I have been voluntarily homeless. I tent camped at nearby state parks, both in Indiana and Kentucky. Things went well for a little while, but then tent camping started to get old, and I caught COVID. Old Tater was down hard. I packed up the tent and I stayed in hotels for 8 nights. Then at a friend's house for a few nights. Then I stayed at a house being sold, but the owner was no longer living in. It was like camping inside a house. But at least I had a refrigerator, a stove, and my own bathroom. As this episode goes out, I will be moving into a new studio. Hopefully things will settle down and I'll get back to my normal life.